Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Today on the Observe Day podcast, in honor of National Suicide Prevention Month, we're joined by Jason Yoon, once a fitness and nutrition guru, is a circadian biology coach. Jason's journey is powerful. In his 20s, he battled severe depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts while following unhealthy lifestyles and advice. Through his struggles, setbacks, and eventual discovery of circadian biology, Jason found not only healing, but a mission helping others see how light, environment, and daily rhythms impact both physical and mental health. This conversation is about resilience, hope, and practical strategies that can save lives. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thank you, Wisdom. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. Can you take us back to your 20s when you were dealing with depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts?
Yes, I can. So, it really started taking off probably right after I graduated college, which was in 2003, and basically I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I had to get a job that had to basically pay the bills and whatnot. So I ended up at Discover Card working in collections. And anybody who knows the collections field, it's a very depressing field anyway. But you're basically just calling up people who haven't paid and telling them to pay, and sometimes they yell at you, sometimes you yell back, and I mean it's a very negative environment. So that kind of led me to trying to basically get out of here. So I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I basically found my old roommate who had moved to Chicago, and I decided, what the hell, let's move in together over there, and let's try and fix myself and get me away from all this stuff. But what I didn't realize, but I realize now, is basically wherever you go, there you are. So if you don't change within, that same person, the same issues, they're just going to follow you. So I basically lived in Chicago for about 9 months, and then I eventually got an internship at the University of Louisville, and so I went down there to work with their strength and conditioning department and programs. And but basically I was still wondering what I was going to do, because I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. So I went through all that program, but in order to be a college strength and conditioning coach, you kind of need to have a graduate degree. So I tried to go that route. I went into graduate school. I was there for 3 days, and I basically said, that's it. I quit. I can't do another day of school. School was I just hated it. So I dropped out of there, moved back home, and well, there's a story within there, but basically when I was at the graduate school, I had to live in my car for like I'd say 21 days. And at the time I had a herniated disc in my back, and I just pushed through it for probably 3 or 4 years. But living in my car really emphasized that something needs to change, because now it was like really, really hurting and I needed to do something. So I had to stop working out, which at the time was like the only real thing that gave me like absolute joy, was working out. So I stopped working out. I was at my biggest at that time, so I was probably 222 pounds. I lost 70 pounds in 6 months, and I lost the first 50 in the first 3 months. But that really, but I mean, I wasn't like obese. I mean, I was big and powerful and strong, but that really kicked me down into a really depressive cycle. So high depression, high anxiety. That's when the suicidal thoughts started, like weekly and whatnot. And again, I had to find a job, so I went back to what I knew. I got another job in collections. This one was like a third party. So like there was more yelling, more screaming, more
Wow.
negative thoughts coming up. Um, so I that went on probably I was in there for probably 11 months. I had no goals, I had no purpose, but I knew I needed to get out of this collections. And what I really ultimately wanted to do was like open up my own gym, train young athletes and whatnot. So I started going back to the library. I started training my mind a little bit more. So the two books that really started me off was Tony Robbins, The Magic of Thinking Big,
Yeah.
and Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. And I basically rented those on CD and I just listened to them over and over again until I had to return them. So that really helped me start the process of getting out. Another program that I purchased was Lucinda Bassett's Attacking Anxiety and Depression, and I went through that program, and then it just started to snowball. So I had a purpose. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to open up that business, which I eventually did. I opened up the fitness boot camp, and um, yeah, basically from 2007, late 2007 is when I opened it. And really, that was what moved me forward from that depression and anxiety and whatnot, and basically just training the mind and having a purpose, having a goal. That
Yeah.
was that was huge for me.
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah. Well, what were some of of the triggers or environments that made things worse for you during the lowest point?
Well, I was a big video game addict back in the day. So I mean, it would be like hours on end just playing video games and whatnot. Also TV. Yeah, so those were big. And then I was also following a standardized American diet, the SAD diet, which is basically high carbohydrates, low fat, low cholesterol, and very high protein. And so mine was like a bodybuilding version of it. So
Yeah,
that really, because when you go low fat, it's like 60% of your brain is made of fat. And when you're not giving the brain what it needs, then it's not going to
yeah,
be able to work properly. So
yeah,
that was one thing that I really worked on. And yeah, so yeah, those were probably the biggest three, I
yeah.
would say.
At your lowest point, what would you say was the thing that kept you going?
I know you can't see it, but on the left-hand side of my office is a poster. It's the Rocky poster, and at the top of it, it says his whole life was a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. And Sylvester Stallone has been like my prime inspiration for life. He's the one who got me into all the training and whatnot with the Rocky Four
Yeah,
training montage, Rocky Three, all that stuff. Um, so that was one of the big things. Like what would Sly do in this situation? So I mean, I don't know if many people know his story, but he basically was like a out of work actor, and then he wrote the script for Rocky in like 3 days, and he tried to sell it to studios, but all the studios wanted to put some big name actor in, but he wanted to play the part of Rocky, and he just kept saying no, no, no. And I mean, eventually it got up to like $365,000 where they were offering him, and that was back in 1975, which would be like millions today. But he kept turning him down, and eventually they said yes. And so it's like you just got to keep punching, keep going after it. So it's like the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows, as he says in his Rocky Balboa, the famous speech he gives to his son. You just got to keep
yeah,
pushing and
yeah,
keep fighting. Yeah, eventually things will turn around.
yeah. How did fitness and nutrition help at first, and why was it not the full solution?
Like I said, I opened my business in 2007, and so I started with the fitness boot camps, and um, yeah, and eventually I grew it to 3 locations, and eventually I opened up like a youth strength and conditioning program. So eventually, or at the beginning, I just led with fitness, and eventually I added like a nutrition program and whatnot. And then that I basically followed the lifestyle I was coaching. So basically, eat multiple times per day. Um, if you have a workout program, 3, 4, 5 days a week, you're working out, then you're healthy, or that's what I thought. So basically, I was living that lifestyle, um, and so it was probably 2015 that I started feeling the effects of that lifestyle, and eventually 2018 is when I really started like looking around because I was having hormone issues, upside down cortisol, melatonin ratio. So in the morning, cortisol is supposed to be higher, melatonin lower. And then in the evening, melatonin is supposed to rise and cortisol is supposed to
Yeah.
go down. Mine was basically this upside down because I had a 5:15 a.m. boot camp class that I had to wake up at 4:30 a.m. to get there. Sometimes I'd be training or working out before the clients get there. Sometimes I'd be working out with the clients, and a lot of the times I'd be working out after the clients left. So those early morning workouts when your hormones are kind of like trashed is not a good idea. So basically that hormone issue was basically what caused me to start looking in other directions because the fitness and nutrition alone wasn't working. And that's when I was introduced to circadian biology, mitochondrial health, whatnot. Once I started down that path, it was basically like less than 30 days. I mean, I turned it around completely. I never felt better. Everything was just felt amazing. And then I just kept pushing and pushing and learning more and more and more because there's a lot to learn. I mean, the basics are pretty easy, but
Yeah.
I want to go more than just the basics because I want to. This is basically what I do now is coach people on Zoom and whatnot. People who have tried everything in terms of the diet, in terms of the workout regimes and all that stuff, and they get results for a while, but eventually it plateaus and then they stop, or the results get worse and worse, and then they eventually quit.
Yeah.
So they're tired of that yo-yo effect, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, what role does light exposure, sleep, and circadian rhythm play in mental health?
Um, well, I mean, it's basically everything. I always say the most important thing for your health is your circadian rhythm, your circadian biology. So um, I created basically 14 pillars of health that I go by. Back back in like 2010, 2015, I only had like 5 pillars of health, but and nutrition was number one on there. But now it's basically circadian biology is number one. Nutrition doesn't come in until number nine. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that a lot of people haven't um, heard about. But it's, well, a lot of people haven't heard about it, but if they have heard about it, they don't really think that it's an issue. But circadian biology is basically number one. I mean, we're dictated by a 24-hour cycle. And because we're modern humans and we have all this technology and we have artificial lights that we can make it bright anytime during the day, we can really screw our circadian rhythm up really quickly if we're not in tune with that rhythm. So the rhythm is, it's like certain things are supposed to turn on at certain times, certain things are supposed to be off at certain times. When we sleep is supposed to be dictated, but um, so we're supposed to sleep when it's dark, but there's third shift and whatnot, and um, yeah, we can do all kinds of crazy things just to pay the bills and whatnot without realizing how much it's really destroying our health.
Yeah.
So,
You keep saying circadian rhythm and all that. A lot of persons, this might even be the first time they're hearing that word. Would
mhm.
you be kind enough to like explain it to the layman so we understand what you're even talking about?
Yes, yeah. So with circadian rhythm, basically think of your body as being run by a bunch of clocks inside of you. So if the clocks get too far off, that's when you'll start to have energy problems. That's when, and if you let it go, then you'll have symptoms of disease. And then if you still let it go, then you'll have a full blown disease. So our master clock sits in our eye, right behind our retina, and it's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN for short. And basically, this is the clock that has to run faster than all the other clocks in our body. So we've got a peripheral clock in front of every organ, in front of every gene, but it's that eye clock that needs to be faster. So it's kind of like the GPS in your phone. So the GPS in your phone talks to the satellite in the sky, and it's got to be a little bit faster than the phone. Otherwise, if you're getting directions, you could be 5, 10, 15 miles off, and by that point, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we've got to keep that clock in sync. The number one thing that I always talk about is for circadian health is seeing the sunrise with naked eyes. So no sunglasses, no contacts. If you do wear eyeglasses, you pull them down on the bridge of your nose, or you take them completely off. You just want that sun going into the eye. So when that sun goes into the eye, it goes into the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That delivers the message, and then it keeps going to the anterior pituitary gland. It tells the pituitary gland, hey, it's time to turn on the correct hormone cascade. So turn on all the sex steroid hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, pregnenolone, DHEA, vitamin D, so all that stuff. And yeah, it's basically like it's supposed to be like your morning cup of coffee. So get rid of like the regular cup of coffee and see the sunrise. That's nature's coffee, so to speak. So
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for explaining the circadian rhythm and what
absolutely.
it is. In your own opinion, what are some of the hidden lifestyle factors that increase suicidal risk?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, as you can see, I'm wearing red
Yeah.
glasses, which
Yeah.
are like the blue blocking glasses.
Yes.
The lights above me are not like your typical lights that we call blue light. So they emit a light that is in the blue spectrum. That spectrum, before Edison created that light bulb in 1879, that spectrum was never isolated in nature.
Yeah.
So blocking blue light is blue light is it's one of the main causes of every single disease that you know. Um, so blue light, and I would say non-native EMF. So there's native EMF. So that's like the sun, the Earth's magnetic field, that kind of stuff, lightning. So those are natural EMFs. But man-made EMFs are one of the things that just completely destroys us. And light is one of those things. But other non-native EMF sources, you've got your phone. I always say your phone is the biggest detriment to your health. I also have a podcast called the Improvement Warrior Podcast. I have a series inside there called Unknown Death Causers. So I've done episodes on sunglasses, sunscreen, cell phones, AirPods, all that stuff. But basically anything wireless and anything smart is really not going to be good for your biology. It's going to basically cause certain processes in you to get shut down. So those clocks are going to start running a little slower, and basically the clocks inside you will run slower, but time will speed up for you. So yeah, because when you are sick, it's basically like time is speeding up, so you're heading closer to the edge, closer to the cemetery, so to speak. But those things, and also not enough sunshine during the day. So we're supposed to make our days bright and make our nights dark. But unfortunately, we as modern humans, we do like the exact opposite. So even if people go outside, they're usually wearing sunglasses, or they're stuck in their like little boxes. They're stuck in their car. They take their car, they drive to work. They're stuck in work for 8, 9, 10 hours, under artificial light, under man-made frequencies, Wi-Fi, and all that stuff. And then they get back in their car. Sometimes they'll drive to a gym, which is another box, under fluorescent lights, under artificial frequencies, Wi-Fi, all that stuff. Then they'll drive home, into their home, under artificial light, under Wi-Fi, all that stuff. And it's basically like their body can't really get the rest that it needs. So it's always in a sympathetic state rather than a parasympathetic state. So it's like their body always thinks there's like a bear or a lion around the corner trying to eat them. So they can never turn their mind off. They can never relax. And they can never recover and they can't really sleep well, so they can't get into the deeper stages of sleep, which is the REM sleep and the deep sleep, which is needed to recover our proteins, recover our mitochondria, so we can regenerate, so we can restart the day. But instead, they're just running off the same stuff without like recycling it and whatnot. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like their cell phone is never fully charged. If like the person is a cell phone, it's never fully charged. It's basically like at 15-20%, and they're always trying to find external sources to like get a quick charge to keep going throughout the day.
yeah. If someone could only change one thing this month for suicide prevention awareness, what should it be?
One thing I would say just start seeing the sunrise with naked eyes, and if you can be barefoot and grounded into the ground, earth. Just don't do it on asphalt. So grass, sand, water, whatnot. So that helps bring electrons into the body, which is like our natural energy source. And so if that energy source runs low, then again, you're going to start searching for like artificial sources of energy and whatnot. So that's always a good start. I would say 5, 10, 15 minutes. And yeah, you'll start to notice some big changes. But I mean, there's other things. So it's like a little thing here, a little thing there, another little thing here. It adds up to a big thing, and eventually you turn the corner, and like 6 months from now, you don't even recognize the person that you once were.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Jason, for your openness and for sharing your expertise. Where can
Absolutely.
listeners learn more about the work you do and connect with you?
Well, probably the best thing is I have a 17-step guidebook called my Mitochondriac Guidebook. Basically talking about a lot of the stuff we talked about today and some other stuff that we haven't talked about. That's at improvementwarriorfitness.com/mitochondriac. So it's just mitochondria with a C at the end. But otherwise, they can follow me at social media.
Yeah,
So Facebook, Tubes, Instagram, I am sun.yun.jason. And then Twitter, I am Yun Training. And you can
yeah,
always DM me or message me there.
yeah. Once again, thank you so much, Jason. Wow, it's been an absolute delight to chat with you.
Yes, it was awesome wisdom. Thank you very much for
Mm.
having me on your podcast.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.